Come on in here, y'all. Come on in here, y'all, as I watch The Wiz. Dun, dun, dun. I'm over here. What's up, Miss G? I'm gonna start it in a little bit, but my favorite scene on The Wiz is on. Yeah, all right. It's funny. I'm over here. I'm watching The Wiz, and The Wiz is what made me think of this topic: why black culture is so dope. And then also the follow up yesterday documentary premiere. I'm gonna drop it on y'all later this week on YouTube. But appreciate everybody that came through as a to the premiere. But for those of you who are listening later on YouTube, I'm watching that scene on the Wiz. You know that scene on the Wiz with all the colors when they talking about green and green is in, and then the next color is red. Then she says I wouldn't be caught dead at anything other than red. And then the next scene, I love that scene on the Wiz because it's like one of the deepest scenes. Like, if you want to understand how American society operates, watch that scene on the Wiz. Just watch the whole movie because the whole movie's a message. The whole movie's a message about we all already are who we want to be. The lion thought he was a coward, but then when they needed him to act in that subway station, he came out and he acted like a lion. You know, the Tin Man thought he didn't have any heart, but when he thought Dorothy and the lion died, his tears brought them back to life. The movie's showing you the whole way that you already are who you think you need to be. But on that scene, when they have all the different colors, and then Oz decides to change the color, and this right here, this part here, I don't know if y'all can hear. Wait, I don't know if y'all hear this. Already for me, red was old. The ultimate yellow brick is gold. That's the new color, children. When he said gold is old, the ultimate yellow brick is gold. Man, that scene right there on the Wiz, what they telling you is whenever society wants to change the tide, whenever they want to change opinions, whenever they want to change things, all they do when the media decides, okay, this is what's the new thing, everybody falls in line. And we've seen this shit operate time and time again. You know what I mean? When like the whole thing with with the whole hip hop is Jamaican thing. Everybody in the world knew that hip hop was a black American art form. And then the minute BET put Fat Joe on TV, now all of a sudden it's a worldly thing. And like overnight, hip hop went from being this thing that black people that the subculture, these degenerates, these people who are less than created, to this otherworldly thing that has embraced the world, and now Asians created hip hop, Latinos created hip hop, Jamaicans hip. That scene on the Wiz, that scene on the Wiz, when they go around and you see Oz, and he just keeps changing colors, and then you see everybody in society fall riding along. Now everybody's dancing, talking about can't you see a brand new day? Gold is the new color, and and then that's literally how we operate. Like, I mean, so I said all that to say this, and I'm gonna get into it talking to y'all as we get into the subject. When we as black people, our culture is so dope. Society knows that whenever it gets a chance, whenever it's changing course and wants to bring in a new way of thinking, a new way of being, or whatever, they get a whole bunch of black people to propagandize it. And then we get to dancing, and the singing and the hooting and the hollering and the shouting. And then in no time flat, we all got to come together and be people of color. And in no time flat, we all got to vote for the Democrats. See why the Democrats always got Jay-Z and all these niggas up there hooting and hollering, singing and dancing. That's why. So if you just to understand propaganda and to understand how society works, if you don't want to take a 6 month long anthropology course or a 3 month long propaganda course, just watch that scene on The Wiz, and you will understand how society can change and change so fast based on a little bit of propaganda. The beautiful thing about today's world is a lot of us in society are fighting back. Like when they used to have these wars between the people over on the Gaza Strip, I ain't gonna mention no names because it is algorithm bullshit. But the people, the Rosenblums versus the other motherfuckers that's racist too over on the Gaza Strip. I ain't fucking with either side like that. Both them of I, the Palestinians here in L.A. They ain't nothing. When you deal with them motherfuckers here in L.A., you realize real fast they ain't nobody to defend over shit. But I'm saying that to say, you see how the media twist it and then get everybody in line to only fall in line with one side of that war that's going on over there. You got a war going on between two people, but most of America's on one side because of this scene right here on The Wiz. With that being said, we're gonna get in and talking about how and why Black American culture is so dope. I'm gonna definitely want some of you guys' opinions on this, some of you guys' points of view on this. And I'm gonna start off by saying we so dope because y'all came out in droves and supported me yesterday on the premiere of my live stream documentary. Everybody who subscribed, who paid for the pay-per-view, question and answer, the Q&A has already been emailed to you. And the better version of the documentary will be emailed out to you later today because it was some technical difficulties on the sound end of the game. Y'all didn't get my music bed the way I wanted y'all to. So the version with the right music bed is gonna be out there, emailed to you later on today and all that. But with that being said, I got my two calls, Miss G and Jesse Eve up here. I want them to speak, and then we're gonna get to some of y'all. Miss G, you were here first. I know Eve, I think you're still busy or whatever. But Miss G, uh, welcome everybody to the room.
What's good, everybody? I think yesterday was amazing and it's groundbreaking. You're about to do some major things that's going to change the game. So, again, I'm really proud of you. I'm so glad to see so many people in this space today. And we're going to be getting busy with some work because as we learn this information, spreading the word is getting busy with work, whether you're spreading it in conversation with just your relatives, friends, or whether you're expanding it and putting it on your social media platforms and things like that. This is how we use these platforms for these war grounds. So, yes, I'm ready to get busy on this topic. And thank you for hosting the space, brother.
Yes, yes, yes. Eve, are you there? I know you said you're probably still busy. So give if you're there, unmute yourself. If you aren't, stay muted. I think Eve I think she'll be a little bit later on. Um, but why Black American culture is so dope. Another reason why our culture, I think, is so dope. I think we got to have these spaces and times where we talk about the positivity and the greatness within us because it's a lot of conversation that's been had. We listen to a lot of these cats talk. They want to talk about the haters or they want to talk about what niggas are doing wrong. They want to talk about who's doing this. You got a lot of these. If you put up a Twitter space talking about who's grifting off the community or put up a YouTube video about, you can create whole YouTube channels just attacking people for not doing things the way you want them to do it and get all kinds of attention. But I think we need to balance that out with, the positivity and the love and the greatness and the discussions about why we so dope and what brings us together. One thing that brings us together, I think, is this ability to, no matter what we presented with, no matter what we slapped across the face with, no matter what changes come our way, we find a way not only to get through it, but we don't only get through it, we thrive through it. You go back and listen to the song "One Nation Under a Groove" by Parliament. Going back and listen to what he says. George says, "Here is our chance to dance our way out of our conditions." Like, think about that line for a second. First off, here's a chance. That's not saying, "Oh Lord, everybody's against me. I'm so oppressed. I don't want to fight this." No, that's saying, okay, I'm faced with some bullshit, but okay, here's an opportunity for me now to face it. And when he says, "Here's a chance to dance our way out of our conditions," that shows that no matter what you face with, and then on Aqua Boogie, we can dance underwater without getting wet. That whole theory behind dancing underwater and not getting wet is saying no matter what goes through, well, no matter what goes on in life, no matter what we're thrown against, what George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic was doing was encoding spirituality through slick nigger rhymes, you know? Here's a chance, Aqua Boogie, we can dance through the molecules of wetness without getting wet. That was some real deep science our brothers was dropping through the music. And I want to say, man, that's one part that makes us so dope. The ability to dance our way through our conditions, and the ability to dance through the molecules of water without getting wet. We've proven that time and time again. Um, but I see we got a speaker up in here. Uh go ahead. Is it Lead with Logic?
Peace, peace. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Listen, my name is Brother Fahim. I'm the maker, the owner, and the sole controller of the podcast that is Lead with Logic. Follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Google Plus, and Spotify. Hey, I appreciate you, Dwan, Miss G, and Just E for allowing me to grace y'all stage once again. Y'all have some pretty dope spaces. Um, why Black American culture is so dope. Man, that is that is like three-dimensional. But just to piggyback, man, just to add on to what you just built upon, Dewan, we are able to bend matter with our minds. And we're also able to, um, what other group could take the lining of a pig and make it a delicacy, even though it's horrible, right? Chitlins. But that's what we do philosophically, musically, with everything. We take the trash and we turn it into a world treasure. Man, I love the culture just because again, it pulls from other cultures and creates somewhat of uh, a beautiful, elegant product, right? The black man is God, y'all, and it's reflected. This is one of the ways the black man and woman, I should say, are divinity and are gods and goddesses, and this is one of the ways that it's manifested through exactly what we're talking about. Because there's been no other culture that has the icon that has had the influence. If you take away some of the black people throughout history, if you take away the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if you take away Marcus Garvey, if you take away Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, history is drastically changed. And these people are black people who work for the good of black people, but they affected the good of the whole universe. So the Black American culture is so dope, again, just because we can take whatever negativity that is thrown our way and create something vastly beautiful and positive.
That's real talk. Um, we're the ultimate alchemists, and that's one thing that I point out in my documentary. As my goddamn gardener sits in front of my door, as if a nigga blow them goddamn leaves the other way. Goddamn, this nigga just sitting there with the goddamn leaf blower on. Shit. Anyway, um, I pointed that out in the documentary yesterday. And you'll see it when I release it. We are the ultimate alchemists. Whatever it is that comes our way, we flip it. You know, and we flip shit into beautiful stuff. And that's another thing that's the beauty within our culture. Culturally, no matter what's thrown our way, we turn it. Like here with Twitter and Twitter Spaces, we all know Twitter. They don't put any of this social media stuff out there to help us out. This stuff isn't put out there to enhance anything that we have going on. But the people in these Twitter Spaces, People that come in my Twitter spaces, especially and certain other ones, Eve's in Twitter spaces, you don't come in for the bullshit. It's just like we're using this platform, although we're not the many. It's not 10,000 of us in here, but it's enough of us in here to show that it's people that come around and use these Twitter spaces to rally up positive things. You know what I mean? We done seen protests rallied up through Twitter space. We done seen rallies and marches. We done seen hell documentaries rallied up through Twitter spaces. We done seen some real shit get rowdied up through Twitter spaces. And so I think a lot of that has to do with just us as a people. Yes, there's a lot of us on the bullshit. That's with anybody. But there are enough of us that use these things that were meant for bullshit and we flip it into something that's constructive. Um Eve, let me know when you get back. If anybody else wants to speak, I want y'all to speak. I want this to be a round table. If I don't want y'all to speak, I'd have gotten on YouTube. So raise your hands and
Hello.
but go ahead, Miss G.
Yeah, no, but you are absolutely correct. This is also the time where they play um the Wiz, and like they always play it in tune with the Wizard of Oz. My version, I always love the Wiz, but it was so much beautifulness in that movie also. It did show us the way. It showed us every aspect about ourselves. I wanted to highlight just how we connect, the way we like perception. When you were talking about how the scenes would change colors, we absolutely are watching and experiencing those scenes right now through society. One scene is this degeneracy, and another scene is how it's played out into reality. So we're seeing it in the music, right? And then all of a sudden, these videos start popping up. You got little kids in school singing, um, what's the Sexy Red song? And then you turn around and you got another video of a father with his like children waving real guns and money in the air. And now we're seeing how they're able to manufacture this reality that they want the world to think is our true reality. And this is why, like, what we're doing right now as a collective, what we're doing reparations wise, when we're demanding a certain imagery from our people to be reflected, this is something that happened during the Harlem Renaissance. And this is why I know for sure we're going through a new renaissance. We're going through a renaissance that's so powerful that people that's not even on these apps, they're talking and they're feeling the same thing. That's when you know it's we're being forced spiritually to move. Even if you don't want to, you can't even be comfortable anymore just going along to get along, because we are compelled to fight against this shit. I see it with, and I'm gonna shut up, but I see it with the elders. We're getting ready to do another thing in DC on Saturday. We done got these elders fired up because these are the elders that representatives go to the guarantee votes, right? Do the fish fries, invite them in. We getting them armed like crazy. And the last event was beautiful. This one is gonna be even more powerful. I always come bearing food, so we're gonna be feeding our elders. But this weekend, this is just a perfect example of how that can how all of us are just coming together like water. And music is a huge part of that because it always was part of the reflection. It's like thunder and lightning. Um, it's the thunder and lightning effect, and music is part of that.
You're right about that. Music is definitely a part of that thunder and that lightning effect, and music charts the times. And I always go back to something Sonny G has said in one of his Twitter spaces that we did together a few months ago. And he said, and this isn't my thought. This was his. He said, "This is the first. You notice reparations has been on the map for a good. If you slow to the table, 3 years, but really a good 7 or 8 years now. It's been on the table, and we don't have any artists of our time reflecting that message. For all that's going on, for me, when I look at that, my point of view on that is that's 100,000% proof positive that whatever music we hear in the mainstream isn't our music. That's not who we push to the front. I think we got to be very careful about when we complain about who we accept and who we don't accept. Oftentimes, as Black people, what do you hear when we hear stuff about Sexy Red or Suki Honey and these people? First thing you hear niggas say is, "Man, Black folks, that's what we want." Who the fuck said they want Sexy Red? We know who the hell she was 18 months ago. If she has access, I've been trying to get my documentary in schools for 6 goddamn months now, 9 months now, and they keep saying no. But Sexy Red can get in. Whoever gets into school is who's allowed in. We don't. There's no Black committee. There are no Black parents saying, "Hey, I want Sexy Red and Little Nas X in my elementary school. I want trans people reading to my kids when doing book learning time." No one says that. Nobody says I want degeneracy in our music. I want a music that doesn't reflect our times. Nobody's ever said that. That's given to you. Here's the reason why I like to come with that. Here's a receipt. Go on Spotify, go on iTunes, and just look at the Isley brothers. On top of their crossover hits, their biggest hits are "Fight the Power," "Harvest for the World." The music that had the biggest messages are the musics that gets the most streams, and by far, "At Your Best," the remake that Aaliyah made, "At Your Best" right now on Spotify has about 4 million streams. "Fight the Power," when you account for both versions of it, version one and version two, guys, close to 30 million streams. What does that tell you? The people kind of gravitates towards the message, even over the love music. Even over the love music sometimes. Usually love music is always gonna outsell all and be the most timeless because love is everlasting. But right there with the love music, the music with militancy. And when people look back on Ice Cube's career, they talk about 4 albums: Death Certificate, America's Most Wanted, Lethal Injection, and The Predator. Because those 4 albums, when it comes to a sign of the times and a bibliography as to what the temperature of Black America was like in the late 80s, early 90s, you can reference those 4 albums and get the temperament of what was going on. You know what I mean? That's what we have as a people. That's what we support as a people. That's what when we're in our natural state, most Black people when you ask them what's your favorite Marvin Gaye album, what is most people going to say? What's going on? Out of all the beautiful love music Marvin Gaye made, his most popular album was What's Going On. When we Black people away from media, when we talk about our favorite rappers, most of the 2 favorites that most people talk about when people are on bullshit is either J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar. What do they share in common? They're 2 artists that talk about what's going on in the world that they see around them. That's what we say. I ain't never seen Black people now. Once a Cardi B or somebody gets popularized and they've been out there and once we've been force fed these people for about a year, and their song comes on 3 times an hour, and they're on every fucking TV commercial, and everywhere you look, every award show they're in front of you. Of course, it's natural once something's been beat down into you for you to accept it. That's again going back to that scene on the Wiz. Cardi B was given to us by that scene on the Wiz when the cut when I said we no longer green, we now fucking with red. That's literally what that scene shows. So we got to stop being as hard on ourselves when we talk about what we like and what we accept. No, that's what folks force feed on us. And anybody who crosses over, is not enough Black people to cross over. So that means if any of these people out there that are on that degenerate shit, they're crossing over, guess what that means? That means that's what white folks like. That's what the other folks like. And I'm not pawning things off on anybody. We still got a responsibility. We still got a whole bunch of ain't shit, bullshit ass niggas out there. I ain't saying we don't. But what I am saying is it's not as bad as we try to make it to seem because we ain't the ones requesting these degenerate people. They're getting given to us. How the fuck did Sexy Red even get on a Drake tour? Who made that decision? Didn't no nigga make that decision. I tell you that goddamn much. So we got to start seeing the whole game for what it is, man, and stop being so fast to attack ourselves and to be down on each other. And look at the whole fucking football field, man. Oh shit, Eve got her hand up. You back? I wasn't looking at the phone. Go ahead, Eve. It's on you.
Appreciate that. Peace to you, Dwan. Peace to the room. Peace to my sister, Miss G. Look, I am still out and about. Just picked up the minis from school, but I had to come and comment on this topic because Black American culture is so dope. And when I say dope, I mean like we're drugs. Don't y'all get it? Like people can't get enough of us. They get high off of what we're doing. They start running around acting like they can do what we do. Just all sorts of confident. Just thinking that they are the shit. And I mean, when you start replicating or at least acting like you are these other people, then you might feel some kind of way because people start treating you as such. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I guess, if we're drugs, then there's a good and the bad. There's highs and lows. There's people who perpetuate degenerate behavior and attitudes and activity. And then you got people who don't. So there's, we're not monosyllabic. It's definitely not a one size fits all with our culture. But I think the most extremes, everybody's in it already. Whether they're dressing like us, whether they've got their hair like us, white guys with shape ups and designs cut in their hair, Hispanic people saying that they are the foundation of different sorts of barbering. I mean, it just seems like any aspect of what makes our culture what people like to repeat, that's when they start trying to put their hands in it and say that, they had some form of that, they're part of the foundation as well, and that's not true. So as long as we continue to delineate and own our stuff, claim what's ours, I think that not only will they continue to try to bite off of us and fail miserably, but maybe once we get what's owed to us, we can really show them what we're working with. Because I think we gloss over how dope we are because we're fighting all these battles. But I guess that's just my initial thought about that.
Yeah, you. I feel we are. We just every time we look up, there's somebody trying to steal an aspect of our culture. You know what I mean? And that is another reason why our culture is so dope. And we need to sit back and celebrate this. And I'm doing this for another reason. We black people, we gotta get back. Like we get, and excuse my English, ladies, don't mean to be offensive, but we dick swing amongst each other all the goddamn time. But we don't dick swing with other people with our greatness. And we gotta get to that. Like, nah, we gotta stop being so goddamn humble. Like I'm tired of that humble shit. You know what I mean? Like, no, 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 no. We've been down for so long. Don't you ever let no black person say you be humble. No matter of fact, we've been humble for too long. We need to swing back in the other direction. Even if it borderlines arrogance, arrogance can be dangerous, but I'd rather trend towards arrogance. And I'd rather trend towards haughtiness than this, oh, woe is me, we less than kind of mindset we've been having for a long time, for too long. You know what I mean? Like, what do people say when they say being black? Usually, when they talk about black stuff, and you get this a lot, and no offense to y'all, but you get it. You get this a lot with the mulatto niggas and the half and half niggas. You motherfucking too much cream in the coffee ass niggas. Something go wrong. What's the first thing y'all say? Oh, that's my black side. I, press an emoji in the room if you've heard these middle of the road ass niggas say that more than once in your lifetime. Somebody that you know, hit me with some kind of emoji if you heard some mixed motherfucker come around and be like, "That's my black side." Every time they do something wrong, oh, that's my black side. They do something good, oh, now all of a sudden it's my mommy's white side or my or my night or whatever side. You know what I mean? This has been the dumpster can for too goddamn long. So we actually need to be trending more towards arrogance until we find a balancing point. You know what I mean? Because right now it's too imbalanced. And so what we need to do is we need to have these regular conversations about what's dope about us, what's dope about your family, what's dope about people that you know. We got to have these conversations because we got this. This has to be as dominant of a conversation as people talking about what niggas do wrong and who's hating on them. If I hear another nigga talk about who's hating on them, and if I see another nigga over here going around on YouTube, they see another black person doing something successful, they want to, ooh, look at what's wrong with them. It's too much of that shit going on. So we got to balance that out with some love. Miss G, I'm kicking back to my co-host, and then my co-host, you can kick it to whoever was. I think Nikki C is new, but go ahead, co-host.
No, yeah, you got a huge point because it's almost like they have a fight, internal fight between the sides. And I think a lot of that has to do with who raises them. Like, depending on who the mommy and the daddy is, and what, if they grew up on the white side or if they grew up on the black side. That's a whole rabbit hole, to be honest. But I think when it comes, going back to just the dopeness of ourselves, we like, for years, it just, the whole image of being bad, they kind of sold it to us. They flooded our television with Scarface and The Godfather and Kung Fu theater. We cannot deny, like, the influence of that. If you go back to the early 80s, the most crime you had in our communities was domestic violence. That's what we had. Even with the gangs, they respected the community. This is the early part of the 80s, before the crack hit. Now, it was like a respect line. Even with the drug dealers, they had drugs, of course, but it was like it was a respect line with it. When crack hit, right in the heart of crack.
Hey,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you nothing. You just get a point I want to expound upon. So no, you can finish your point. I want to expound upon what you just said, but finish your point.
Yeah, yeah, when you get to the
Okay,
late 80s, 90s, we're flooded with Scarface and everybody taking on all of these gang names, and we're watching them like, oh, that's how we have to act. This is how we have to treat each other. It was manufactured. That's why it died off so quickly in the 90s. If you go to our generation, Dewan and Just Steve, you go to our generation, we was like, we ain't doing no crack. Have you seen their teeth? Have
right?
you seen the effects of
Hell
that?
no.
Exactly. They had to
Hell
manufacture us
no.
once again. But I'm gonna pause right there so you can dive in.
I want to dive into what you just said about that. About I was talking. Y'all know Freeze Love, the comedian. He used to be on 5150 and all kinds of shows going back to the 90s. Freeze Love. I love funny as hell. I was having this conversation. Freeze Love used to have a joke, and then I saw him do the joke one day. Then we talked about it. This like 7 or 8 years ago, and he was talking about how like back in the early 80s, like gang member, like he said, niggas they was part of dance crews. Like you stopped banging it once you got out of high school. Banging was only a thing for high schoolers. Once you got out of high school, you grew the fuck up. I'm talking about South Central LA 1982, 83, 84. I'm talking about then. You didn't gang bang out of high school. Now, one thing they did do and he was talking about when they would have conflicts, that's where a lot of your dance crews came from. Like how like New Yorkers would talk about, oh no, we were doing the Puerto Ricans would say, no, that's Latino. When they talk about b-boying and all that stuff. Like, no, in LA in the 70s, instead of fighting, you had dance crews. And if niggas had issues, they would pop it out. They would pop lock. They had b-boy. They would break. And they would literally dance, and it would be a crew of five, and whatever crew outdanced the other crew was a crew that won that dispute. This is literally what niggas in gangs was doing in 1981. People don't understand that. Like when Zappa rocked more bounce to the ounce, them niggas don't. That's why that shit slaps so hard on the West Coast. That's why Zapp and Rogers slapped so hard on the West Coast. Cause on the West Coast, niggas was dancing out gang beefs. It sounds funny now, but that was true. I got niggas who was on the street back then that tell you the stories firsthand. That's where a lot of our dance crews came from. Like niggas dancing out beefs. And my dad was in the streets back then. I was born in 1981. My dad talks about me being born is what took him out the streets. on top of me being born, and then what happened when crack came? Before crack came, there was a streamline. You know, you had your gang members over there on one corner, your pimps was on the opposite corner, and your hustlers was on the next corner, and nobody got in each other's way. Everybody, the hustlers made their money, the pimps made their money, and the gangs protected their territory. When crack came in, that's when the LAPD and then the powers that be put the drugs in the gangs' hands, and that's when the violence took off. We got to make sure we always bring that point out, because you always want to hear these people going back to the music, and I'm gonna get to you, Nikki C. Going back to the music, people always want to blame it on hip hop. No, there was a lot that went on between Straight Outta Compton and what was going on here in South Central. There was a lot going on between them two. And I want to bring up another point for a lot of you niggas that like blaming everything on gangster rap. Let's go back to 1991. That was NWA's most grotesque album, where they really were promoting gang violence. They really were. They weren't promoting gang violence on Straight Outta Compton. Straight Outta Compton was one of the albums that made me laugh at crackheads. Like, I don't want to be no crackhead because of what they were saying on Straight Outta Compton. You don't. Dope Man was a song like, look at the dope man. That nigga either gonna end up dead or in jail. I don't want to be that. You know what I mean? But when they came out with 100 miles and running and was talking all that shit and was on that gangster stuff, who wiped NWA out? Ice Cube. By the end of 1991, Ice Cube, when he came out with No Vaseline, that wiped any and every effect NWA had. NWA had no lasting effect on hip hop after Ice Cube came out with No Vaseline. That delegitimized everything that they did, every song that they created. I was in LA in 1991. I was there. So for you East Coast niggas that like be like, you was nigga, well, I was there, nigga. And I remember when Death Certificate dropped, that basically about 100 miles of running sold a lot of albums, but niggas was clowning NWA after Ice Cube wiped them out. And then when the riots hit, the gangs came together. It wasn't until later on that year when people who was somehow locked up, their cars ended up in drive-by shootings. That's when the shit started to pop back off. But for the rest of 92, there wasn't no gang issues. There wasn't no street issues. And Ice Cube by himself delegitimized anything NWA did. So don't let these niggas retell the history like NWA has a massive effect that just changed the world and black people were degenerate ever since. No, nigga, no. No. Ice Cube wiped them niggas out verbally, and it was the fucking police and the drugs that caused the problems in our community, not no goddamn music. All right, Nikki, it's on you.
Just
Oh no, go
you
ahead,
just
Missy.
kill it. Yeah, I just want to say, yep. And then look, you said so much, and it's just you got me over here fired up because that's the part where I'm trying to say if we really want to change this whole Suki, I don't even know the chick name like that, and the sexy reds of the world, all we got to do is start really cracking on them, have all these photos and ridiculousness, really do what we used to do. I just had a conversation with somebody about this. We have to crack on them. We have to joke them so bad to make it an embarrassment. Not just the Sukis, though. That father who had this son waving a gun, let's take the eyes off the kid because they don't have this power. Put the eyes on that parent, highlight his face, start saying little goofy stuff about him online. The next person is gonna think twice about doing that dumbness. We have to start ridiculing people for doing
We did
this.
that. You're right. I'm glad you said that because remember how we would do it. Remember how we clowned the fuck. We clowned Vanilla Ice out the fuck out of here. We clowned Millie Vanilli the fuck out of here. We clowned people. There was a time in the late '80s, early '90s when anybody that was on some kind of karaoke shit with our music, hell, we clowned Shabba Ranks out of here, low key. You know, in Living Color, it's like anybody that was on some weirdo shit with our music and Living Color. Remember that song that they had? Ba da dee da da da, shabba dabba dee, yabba yabba dabba dee, yabba dabba doo. We like that song was stupid. And when Kim Wayans came with that skit, nigga, that ended like we used to do that, and I'm glad you brought that point up because we got to get back to we got to get like that. We like that with each other. We like that with each other all the time. We got to get like that with people who harm our community. Those of us internally and externally. Hell yeah, I'm all for it. Let's clown hoe ass niggas and
Exactly.
people who do hoe shit. Let's clown them.
Exactly. But see, this is how we used to weaponize the things that we did. People used to clown you for being smart in school. Anytime you could convince a person who's super smart, they just was like, let me not show how smart I am. It's power in that. MF Kush does it all the time. It's hilarious. But yeah, you too. But what I'm saying is, like, if we really, really want to make effects, let's do, like, we really got to start putting them on blast. We got to do comedy skits. I saw one with this chick lined up, Sexy Red lined up with the alien from off of it's out the one with Will Smith, that movie with Will Smith.
That was
Like,
the
I
Men in
died
Black
laughing.
alien. Oh
It
my
was hilarious.
goodness.
Yes, oh my God. That joke was so hilarious because it was time. Like, what are we doing here? And honestly, it is worth it. And it's worth it because I don't want to see another kid on TV. I mean, on running across my timeline with a gun in his hand, and his father cheering it on the sidelines, creating the next menace to society. I don't want to see the next child in school scared, to say the curse word, during the Sexy Red song, but knowing that it's bad, and she up there singing the daggone song because her mama playing it at home. Like, these are the things. This is how we get our culture back in order. Comedy has always been part of our weaponry, and so has our music. And we have to make sure we re-establish that, and we assign those to the elevated levels, not society, because that's when we get the bullshit we got now. So I'm gonna shut up. We can pass the mic to Nikki C. It's on you, Nikki.
Hey, peace and love, fam. I just wanted to. I kind of forgot a little bit what I had to say, so I had to write some notes. But one of the things that I wanted to say is that, echo chambers start to brainwash people. Like saying things like "We are hip hop." It's an echo chamber. Is what uh the mainstreamers are saying, and it's not true. It's just not true. And the brainwashing, especially with our youth, you know, it's crazy because it's right there in your face because they know their parents' music. And so by them knowing their parents' music, it's like hearing I am hip hop, but listening to R&B from your parents. The truth is right there. But the echo chambers is causing people to be brainwashed, right? Because we are not hip hop. We are all different genres of music because Black Americans pretty much created all genres of music. Bluegrass, jazz, gospel, R&B, neo soul, rap, acapella, bebop, scatting. All of this stuff is who we are. We are not just hip hop. And I don't know who started that, but we need to stop. We need to stop. Because just like the host was saying, we're everything. We're everything. We created everything. So, for our youth, we got to get that out of their mindsets. You at home with your parents listening to Roger Chapman and like he said, the Isley Brothers and Luther, but you going around talking about we are hip hop. That's an oxymoron. So we got to stop. And then you know, and another thing is too is the immigrants love when they hear you say I am hip hop because they don't have any talent. And that's the way that they come over here into our genre of music is hip hop because they don't have any talent to be what we are. There have never been a Whitney Houston overseas. There have never been a Michael Jackson overseas. There have never been a Shaka Khan, and Anita Baker. None of that. We have the most famous um, entertainers over the world. So the only thing that they can come in and integrate in America is hip hop. And what they do is they come in and pervert it so that people can have the wow factor. And this is how they become famous, because they figure out the most perverted, the most newest thing that they can say to get into um us and to get to our youth. And shout out to Ish, who just came in the room, for having her Third Eye Radio, bringing this to light. That we have every genre of music. We created it. And so, as far as Sexy Red is concerned, we need to go after her. And that's what we're going to have to start doing as Black Americans, is figuring out how we can start destroying people like her. She has a lip gloss line that is labeled gonorrhea, yellow discharge, and some more just disgusting stuff. And she's not appealing. I'm 45. She's not appealing to the older people, to the older crowd. Guess who she's appealing to? She's appealing to the 12, 13, the teenagers. She is actually promoting a genocide upon our youth. It is that serious. And I know some people might be thinking that I'm over exaggerating, but it is that serious. When she was asked, do she believe in protecting herself? Her answer was no. And that she didn't mind getting STDs. And this is what our young people are listening to. She's trying to kill us.
Yeah, let's and yeah, when it comes to people like Sexy Red, like I'm glad you said what Miss G said. We gotta make public examples out of these people. We gotta totally delegitimize them comedically. Because that's
Even
something
Cardi
that's
B.
in our back pocket.
Even Cardi B. And I know she's
Yeah,
old, but
all of them. Cardi
all of
B, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj,
them. They all immigrants.
all of them. Drake, all of them. Well, we gotta totally delegitimize all of them. But us as a people, like again, that goes into to something that's a power that we've forgotten over the last 25 years or so that we've had. You know what I mean? We used to have shows like before it was Flip Wilson show. You had the Richard Pryor show. You had that. You had Arsenio. You had In Living Color. You had Chappelle up until the Chappelle show. There was always shows we had comedic shows that would point out even Martin. Martin would sort of make a caricature of somebody we know or a particular type of person that we know. Shaniqua, I mean, well, not Shaniqua. What's her name? Shanae. Shanae was a character that was talked about. Like we would have called Sexy Red Shanae back. No one wanted to be Shanae back, and I remember I was in elementary school when Shanae dropped. It was like Shanae was the person that no one wanted to be. Remember that?
Well,
We were like,
she's considered to be a hood rat.
we would see somebody that doesn't that's a rat, and the rats we used to call them Eastie in LA because on the east side is where all the hood rats are. Yeah, that was nothing to aspire to be. They were the butt of the jokes. Like, no, you better fucking put your shoulders straight, stand up, and speak with some good fucking English, not all that hood rat shit. We used to talk about people like that. And so then it got to be about the mid late 90s. Oh, you should. With the 90s, when the 90s came along and the late 90s and into the talk show era, The talk show era made it be like, oh, no, you need to have compassion. Oh no, no, you need to know they're people too. And then by the time the 2000s came, it became they started talking about those of us who talk shit about the people who do that. That became a thing. You know what I mean? And so, but again, that's what happened. We have the power to reverse that shit back. I see Lee, you got I'm gonna after everyone speaks, I'm gonna drop you back down. But Lee, I see you got your hand back up. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir. I think it was Miss G who said she had mentioned. I'm just gonna say two quick things, right? Miss G had said the little boy I saw him, the little boy at the little party, like he was at Chuck E. Cheese or something, waving the guns, and his parents were behind him, being supportive of him. And then the second thing was I saw the little kids in school, and they were singing "Sexy Red." Um, it's a rapper out there named D1. Are y'all familiar with D1? Light skinned brother with dreads. He been getting a lot of traction lately because he called out Jim Jones and somebody. Oh, Rick Ross. He was talking about how we have to be more responsible in the music, right? Because I think Miss G was saying how music uh, has the power and the influence to, uh, you know, impact people, right? All over the world, but also young people with vulnerable and very malleable minds. And so I say that to say, uh, we have people. The He's a Christian rapper, and they giving him hell. Y'all just look it up. Just look it up on X. Type in DEE slash hyphen one. A lot of people are saying, "How dare he?" You know what I mean? He shouldn't be calling out these rappers. If y'all look on Instagram, if you look on YouTube, you know what I'm talking about. And he's while I understand, it's a way. Sometimes not what you say is how you say it. And when you're dealing with people with stages of development, you have to always keep in mind everybody's not operating from a high vibrational level. Some people operate from a low vibrational level. So you have to meet people where they are in order to get your message across, right? But I think what he says bears considerable. We should reflect on that. Like, hey, um, we have to be a little bit more mindful, and people have to, call people out in totality. Now, going to what Nikki C was saying about Sexy Red, I'm glad she said what she said. She's a product. Sexy Red is a product. Hip hop. It's Sexy Red in 2023, but in 1996 it was Lil Kim with her legs open, right? It was Foxy Brown. It was Trina in '98 saying she was the baddest bitch and she would go
I am
crazy.
so sorry. I am so sorry. Can we not? Sexy Red could never Little Kim anything. She's like a whole roach out here. And I mean, maybe you're just talking about the degeneracy of it all, but like, even Lil Kim had bars. Like, Sexy Red has
Well,
zero
Here,
skill.
let him, but
yeah, I just gotta finish. If I can
let him,
finish, sister.
let him finish his point. Go ahead and finish your point, brother.
What and that's again, that's an issue, right? Because do we criticize, so are we against Sexy Red because she's less talented or because of the image that she projects? Because if it's the image, they're all the same.
Yeah,
It's
and
not. It's not really about lyrics, right, Miss Eve, right, Just Eve. It's really about the image. But this is what I was going to round off and say. This is how I was going to land. When we talk about excommunicating these people who are entertainers, number one, are these entertainers our children's? Are these the people who they really should be looking to? Should children really even be like? I have more of a problem with the school of those babies playing that for them. It's not necessarily the artist, because I sang songs when I was young that I shouldn't have been singing, right? It's just that that's an extreme. So people are going to get triggered by seeing that younger babies doing that. But 12-year-olds don't have no business singing about dope selling and fucking neither. That's too advanced for their minds. So
yeah, I hear that, brother. I'm gonna go ahead. 'Cause I'm glad you brought that up. Let me. Eve, I'm gonna let Eve say what she gotta say. Then I'm gonna come in. If after Eve, go ahead, Eve.
Thank you. And much respect, lead with logic. I wasn't trying to be rude by cutting you off. I just when you said it, I guess I kind of got triggered because I think we do that a lot. We put people in the same category just because they have similar behavior. But I just, I don't know that my parents ever would have thought Lil Kim would have been in a high school. You know, like the exposure to these artists that were singing these lyrics, that it's not the same. I mean, you've got parents who are singing these songs with the kids, which is what Miss G was talking about. The only reason that them kids at the preschool or pre-K, kindergarten, whatever, knew the songs is because they're singing it at home. So, and then they're getting it extra compounded on because their teacher's also ratchet. So, um, that, like, I feel you though. So I guess maybe we do
It's
need to make a distinction between, like, if we have an issue with her
it,
lyrics, which I don't, I mean,
E.
I don't know.
I
Go
see,
ahead.
I see both sides of it, and here's what I have to say about that. I see where he was going with it because Little Kim, Grace Jones, Sexy Red, they're all the same archetype to varying degrees of talent. And that's what they get us on the talent level. But even I can go back to Lil Kim because I was in high school when she dropped. So she was Lil Kim's era was the era, the Lil Kim Foxy Brown era. That was the era that they were forcing on me when I was 15 and 16. And I'm gonna tell you my thoughts at that age. When I saw Lil Kim and Foxy Brown, my first time seeing Lil Kim's her posing like that was on Crenshaw Boulevard, Crenshaw and Coliseum right there. It was on a liquor store walls as I was going to the liquor store with my dad. I'm the first time seeing it, and I'm like, even at 15, I'm thinking like, well, if that's how she got to pose, her music can't be that good. I'm asked myself because Lil Kim was talented, so was Foxy Brown. They both had bars, they both were, but neither were the best of our talent. I mean, they were still they were a downgrade from MC Light and Queen Latifah and Lady of Rage and Yo Yo. Even lyrically they weren't as good as Queen Latifah. Flow wise, they couldn't fuck with MC Light. You know what I mean? Pen wise, they couldn't fuck with Lauryn Hill. So yeah, they were a downgrade lyrically and musically. Jay Z had to write Foxy Brown's raps as he was allegedly smashing her underage, but that's another story. Jay Z had to write those raps for them to be good. She could flow. That was Jay Z's pen. Jay Z's pen could have worked with anybody under any persona. Uh, Sexy Red, I'm not Sexy Red. Little Kim and Foxy Brown dropped the same year as Layla Hathaway. Why did Lil Kim and Foxy Brown get more promo than Layla Hathaway? And vocally, she's a way better singer than both of them are rappers combined. You put both Lil Kim and Foxy Brown's rap skills together, they're not fucking with Layla Hathaway's voice. But Layla Hathaway got released on an album that was produced by Angela Winbush, another woman, got a lady singing sultry black good music produced by a woman. And where did the women go? Foxy Brown and Lil Kim. So we can't give a pass. We can't give a pass. That they were a downgrade over their contemporaries. I'm gonna say that they were a downgrade over their contemporaries. And every time we open the door for a certain level of degeneracy, you got to know that more is to follow. They're never going to crack the door to degeneracy down with untalented people. Got to understand the white supremacists, they plan things out over 30 years, 40 years. They're going to give you an extremely talented degenerate now because they know in 10 years you're going to have a mediocrely talented degenerate. And 10 years after that, they can give you whoever the hell they want to give you because you've been conditioned and now to accepting degeneracy. So we do have to gatekeep degeneracy at all levels. You know what I mean? I remember my grandparents, my mom and my grandparents talking about Shaka Khan when she came out. Part of the reason why Shaka Khan wasn't as widely accepted as Aretha was because of her sexually explicit stylings. And as great as Shaka Khan was vocally, that standard, that generation of America had an issue with her being so sexually explicit. And she never got past that for that generation. And because she was so sexually explicit, she never got the respect of Aretha Franklin. You got to remember that. Same thing with Lena Horne. There's Ethel Waters. We can go back and back and back in time, and you've always had this this split between the sexually vulgar, sexually explicit black woman and the more mature, classy black woman that's portrayed. There's always been a split in our community. But traditionally in Black America, the woman who was a woman, a lady, she always got the higher level of respect over the one that played the degenerate or played the sexually explicit one. Diana Ross always got held to the highest level of esteem because she always showed the highest level of womanhood. And Whitney Houston, no matter what went on in her personal life, whatever, she was all about what was going on. She was the epitome of what a lady was. And we've always culturally, going back to our topic, why our culture is so dope. Culturally, we've always defaulted towards uplifting the people who did it with honor and with respect. And we've always sort of side-eyed the ones who did it sexually explicit and vulgar. We can't, we've been we've been flooded. We've been so flooded with vulgar since the Foxy Brown slash Little Kim era. It's just been coming in droves since then, to where now we're getting to the point to where we have to, and this is an easy thing for us to do, to where we're comparing levels of vulgarity. We have to get to the point where we say vulgar is vulgar. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have vulgar. Vulgar has its place. I ain't one of them niggas saying we shouldn't. Lil Kim deserves a spot. Sexy Red, yeah, she deserves a spot too, because there's a whole bunch of vulgar degenerates out there. All I'm saying is let's clown them and let's just be real with what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. And if it's vulgar and degenerate, let's treat it as such. If you're going to present to me vulgarity and degeneracy, and that's what you're going to present to me, then I'm going to respond with the same energy of vulgar and jokes. With all, I want to respond. I want to give you that energy. Same as if you come to me as a lady, I'm going to give you the energy of a lady. And the same with these sorry ass. And let's not keep it on Sexy Red. Let's put it on these thug sorry ass nigga rappers too. I'm tired of these motherfuckers. I really am. I'm really tired of the gangster rappers. I'm extremely tired of them. Like, you don't know how tired I am of gangster rappers, because I grew up in South Central LA and I had to grow up under the oppression of having to walk outside and watch what color I'm wearing, watch which, oh, I can't go towards Crenshaw, but I can go towards La Brea, because it ain't, once I get past La Brea, ain't no more hoods. But if I go towards Crenshaw, I got to deal with Crenshaw Mafia. If I go to 43rd, I got to deal with the 40s. Then I got to deal with the 60s. Then I got to deal with 30s. And I had to live through all that shit growing up, and now our black culture is under assault. These niggas is running the Vlad TV gossiping about the 90s instead of defending us against Fat Joe and these people that's trying to claim our heritage. We got reparations on the table and all that gangster this, gangster that. I'm a thug. I got more bitches than you. I got more money than you. Ain't none of you niggas talking about reparations. Same thing with them hoe ass pretty boy rappers too. They just as bad as the gangsters. Let's talk about them hoe ass niggas too. Then I'm gonna get to the next, because we got to talk about that too. We got to talk about the society, the parts of our society that lead us to degeneracy. And the other side, on top of the gangster rapper, the person that's just as dangerous is the hoe ass pretty boy rapper. I got more money than you, so I'm better than you. I got a better bitch than you, so I'm better than you. Look at me buy bottles. Look at all the hoes and clothes I got. We got to get on these hoe ass niggas too. So goddamn pretty. Where's all that talk about money? Rick Ross, Jay-Z, you talking about money this? Well, shit, reparations will get us all back, bitch. Where you at? I mean, I'm dead fucking serious. Like, we had to listen to Puffy. We had to listen to Rick Ross. We had to listen to Jay-Z. We had to listen to all these niggas while all of us was in high school. You know, we was trying to get some good grades, but the music is saying, I gotta wear this backpack. I gotta wear these shoes. I gotta drive that car, or I'm not a real man. I'm 14, 15 years old thinking, okay, I gotta get a bag now. If I want to bag this bitch, I need the biggest bag. Thank God I had a father and still have a father who I'm going to go see in 2 hours. I love my dad. Thank God I had and still have a dad that ushered me in the right direction. But what if I didn't have my dad there to show me what manhood really is? I wouldn't know how to treat my wife. I only know how to treat my wife because my father told me, not because of what any of these whole ass niggas told me in the movies. I mean, in the music. I can't count on them niggas for shit. Like my dad told me one thing that helped him treat my mama right was listening to Smokey Robinson's music and the Ozzy Brothers. That's what my father told me because my grandfather, he's a man of that generation that just cuss you out for saying hi. So my grandfather, my dad didn't treat my mom like my grandfather treated my grandmama. My dad said listening to Smokey Robinson, listening to the Isley Brothers helped him go a long way in how to treat my mom. So I grew up in a household with a father that treated my mom right. I didn't need the music. I learned from my dad. Thank God I learned from my dad. Because if I learned from Jay-Z, I'd probably be divorced twice and that done filed bankruptcy 3 times. We got to get on these whole ass niggas too. That taught us manhood is a bunch of bullshit and nonsense. These are the things that culturally we have to get back and reset our standards. I'm not going to defend Foxy Brown. I'm not going to defend, and as much as I love Shaka Khan, I can't defend the imagery she put out, and I wasn't even born then. I can't defend that. I can love her music, but I can't defend that. I can't, just like I'm not going to, because it starts somewhere, and then every 10 years a new generation's here, and it devolves to a lower level of degeneracy. I'm here to wipe all that shit out and say that we need to go back to valuing the people who do it right and the people who want to be degenerates. Fine, let's treat them like such. The gangster rappers, them niggas, y'all want to be gangsters? You want to be an outlaw? Then outlaw your ass over there, then nigga. Go ahead. You be an outcast. Go from far away from me. We over here having a good time, smoking blunts, drinking wine, and loving on each other. That's what you want to be gangster and be evil, be mean. You want to be mad at the world? Take your angry ass over there. I can't legitimize that shit no more. Or any rapper or actor who personifies that. I can't legitimize these pretty boy hoes and clothes ass niggas. You want to be a pretty boy? Go fuck other niggas. I like women. You go you because most of these pretty boys is down low sissies anyway. Go around. You want to be pretty? All right, go ahead. Go impress them other men with your Jordans and your fancy jackets and your rims. You buy rims to impress other men. Women don't care. You go, nigga. That's where the fuck I'm at with it. I know that was a tangent, but my bad. Eve, Miss G, go ahead.
That's real though. People using the wrong example as the example, and it's because of how they glorify our sound. So I guess it kind of goes back to, or at least my original point, Black American culture being so dope. I really do think that people get addicted to us, and then how good it makes them feel to be a part of something real, and then they spaz out because drugs aren't good for you. So, you know, I think maybe in moderation or something, or I don't know, maybe they'll get a better appreciation for the culture if they abstain from using it so much, so frequently. But I really like what you were talking about. Let's be accountable across the board over here, and not just on the ratchets, but on these men who don't really know. They've just been given a good script. I think my boss, the director of the school that I work at, he's always talking about how you've got high paid employees, or not necessarily opportunists, but controlled opposition. And I feel like these people are that. They don't necessarily care how bad it is what they're saying. I used to think that about Lil Nas X. Like, he knows what he's saying is damning, but that's part of his deal. He's gonna say the most craziest shit. Same with Sexy Red. Not Sexy Red. Can we call her something else? Like, can we tonight decide to call her
I
something
thought, oh yeah, her name is Herpes. But go ahead.
else? Well, Miss keeps coming back, but not in a good way. Uh, Man, yeah, let's not let them be the example of anything, because we know that they're just there because they're getting a check. And have man, Nikki, she had me in the car gross the fuck out when she's talking about the names of the styles of, was it makeup? She said there's makeup called gonorrhea and urine and all that shit. That's so gross. Um, but I guess it's like part of the shock factor, the I don't give a fuck factor. But I mean, we do give a fuck. That's not us. People keep putting bad things on us, and that's, if we don't say anything, then they'll say, "Yep, that's the niggas." But we've been actually speaking out against a lot of that bad stuff.
It was the lip
The
gloss line. I came up just to say that.
what's that?
Could you hear me? It was the lip gloss line.
Lip gloss, man,
Uh
that's
huh.
so gross.
It's
That, like, you
gross.
had me all the way grossed out talking about them flavors. Ew, like, that's a flavor of what, like, it's on your lips and you're licking it. It's called gonorrhea. Like, that's so disgusting.
And Eve, I'm glad you brought that back up because I juxtaposed that to when I was 10. That's when Magic got AIDS. And so we grew up on, what did Digital Underground say? But I don't go nowhere without my Jimmy hat because I'm smarter than that. It was even the early Death Row stuff. Put a condom on. Ice Cube had a song called "Look Who's Burning" when he's like, "Bend that big ass over for a shot, cause somebody is piping hot." It was songs clowning people. The Ice Cube song said, "I went to the free clinic and it was filled to capacity." Now, how bad could a piece of ass be? We like the music clowned that shit. Like, so I grew up. The reason why I ain't got no fucking kids, one of the main reasons why I ain't got no kids fucking running around outside of my parents' upbringing is because I grew up on music saying, man, fellas, protect yourself. And don't be getting no diseases and don't be having no kids running around. That's what I got from the rap music that I listened to growing up. That's why I also be laughing at niggas when they be talking to myself, well, the music turned people into gangsters. Well, if there was gonna be gangsters, there was gonna be gangsters anyway. Because I listened to that same goddamn music and learned to put a fucking condom on. But yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Was you no, I was
Nah,
but
that's
after I
real. I guess your upbringing definitely matters. The environment absolutely matters. So let's not we're not discrediting anybody's upbringing when we say that, everybody can listen to the same stuff and still come out with something different. However, the children getting exposed to this stuff at school, that's abuse, and the adults who are involved should be smacked, 10 ways to Sunday, because the children don't have any choice in this. So then when their Asian and white counterparts are saying how cool it is to be a herpes, or that's just so weird, to be cool to be herpes. All right, when people are saying that degenerate behavior is so cool and they want you to participate in it as well, but they're not going to participate in it. They're going to vicariously live through you and your crack habit, and you and your baby daddies, and you and your whatever the fuck is going on. We really need to think about where they got exposed to it first. And no, it's not necessarily in school, but it is not a safe space for them anymore. And since school's not a safe space for them anymore, then the parents have to do more to, I think, balance it out. Like, for every bullshit song that they might have heard in class today, you need to balance that out with some Earth, Wind and Fire, some Michael Jackson, some Isley Brothers, some maybe some gospel shit. Like, I don't know how demonic these kids could be exposed to, but it's there. And they want the children to think that that's black culture, but it's not. So you have to deprogram them by showing them what it is. Or at least I think that that's how we can counter it.
All I wanted in elementary school, only thing if we all I wanted in elementary school is for Tevin Campbell to come sing Tomorrow. I mean, that's all I wanted when I was 8 years old. When I was 9, I was like, I wanted to be in that video when I was 9. We couldn't get Tevin Campbell, but these kids are getting goddamn sexy red. Man, what kind of world are we living in right now? Wait, I mean, what the fuck? I mean, I wanted, nigga. We can like these kids. That's how again it's propaganda. That's why we have to always, when Neely Fuller says, point back to the usual suspects because I guarantee goddamn to parent asked for Sexy Red to be there. Even the parents who do listen to Sexy Red, and I can't let black parents off the hook. I can't let. I remember when I was working with kids, one of the hardest things for me to see would be um it would be I lost my train of thought. I just lost my train of thought. God damn it. That means I must need to get to the next speaker because I was about to say some shit. And that shit left me when I saw this bullshit ass car on the news. They just showed the new Tesla. That shit ugly as fuck. And it lost my train of thought. But go ahead, Miss Eve. I lost my goddamn train of thought. Or Miss G. Go ahead.
I ain't want to jump. Are you finished, Eve? I was gonna be. You said some stuff that had me over here like, what the hell? You were saying some stuff, so I want to make sure you finished your thought before I jumped in. All right, good.
Hey,
So
Giselle,
what I was,
I sent you the lipstick line. I mean, the lip gloss line.
oh Lord,
Uh,
I don't even, I don't even want to get them no views
I
like
put
in
it
real
in
life.
your inbox.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Well, this is what I wanted to add because this goes back to them kind of disarming our community. This is why all of this stuff is connected. This is why, even in our music space, we have to be revolutionary. This is part of our repair, this is part of our reparations. They've weaponized our sound. These record labels are poor. They're doing this specifically because if you notice, we've been able to combat a lot of this. Oh, you get to change your sex at 3 years old if you say you don't want your penis anymore. Or um, you can these kids, they naturally want to do this. We've been able to combat that because we're like, look, if you have regular kids, look, they don't think like that. So what they've been doing, they've been flooding it through the television waves. They flooding it through the shows, the little cartoons that our kids are watching, because the goal is to have access to our kids again. We cannot forget the role, the abuse that our kids endured on the plantations. We usually talk about the husbands and the wives, but when we really tap into and really dive into the experience of slavery, they had our little boys running around with just a long t-shirt to have easy access at our sons during slavery. And that's what they're doing right now. They're trying to get us back to that neutralized, nothing to see here. Like they want us to get there. I don't think we were ever there because we constantly fought back. But for me, like what I see right now is in the music industry, if they're going to these schools, they got these kids
Miss
talking
Giselle, I'm
about,
so sorry. I know I'm interrupting you. Dwan, I can't hear
yeah,
anything she's saying. Can you drop me down and bring me back up?
All right, I'll be out and bring you back up. Go ahead. Um
yeah, yeah, with these people talking about the pound pound, like the beat. And because they know we're attracted to beats, they get us on our vibrations. We actually vibe in nature. We vibe. We got the same vibration as trees. That's another story for other days. But when they see our kids, they gravitate towards it. Now the kids are gonna start thinking about it. What's a pound pound? Now they got that thought that they want to make believe is a natural thought. Like what does that mean? Oh, here's the teacher that's already been assigned to tell our kids what this stuff means. Oh, really? Oh, so she's okay with catching diseases? Because when we talk to our kids, like, you don't want to do that, you could get diseases, you could get that, that, and the other. It's combating us. They're disarming our ability to protect our kids. They're even making rules where they can take our kids away if we're not in line with what they're saying that they want. This is all that mental manipulation. And I feel like the music is the biggest thing that they're pushing right now. We're sitting here asking, why are they talking? Why are they pushing this all of a sudden? Nobody would be accepting this. And notice, I know a lot of people don't like her, Meg the Stallion, right? But Meg the Stallion in her music, she like, protected sex. Go get your degree. Go get a bag, like not from a man, but get your own stuff. Like she started talking like that, and you notice you don't really hear a lot from Meg. Her most latest song is Depression, right? They got her phased out because
I want to
oh, go
bring up a
ahead.
point on something you just said. This past
Yeah.
Thursday, I went to go see Jacques, the little the young bull, the R&B singer. Went to go check him out. You know, just keeping a pulse on what's out there. And where he was performing, he had there were at least 1,000 people there to see him, and he put on a good show. His music. I don't, it's not my style, but it is for the younger generation. I would like to see him get a live band instead of a live track. But I saw a lot of young black people there that were well behaved. You know what I mean? And I don't think enough attention is given that these cats are all in their 20s, early 20s, uh, early 30s at the oldest is what I saw and when I was in there. And there was a lot of them in there, black, and enjoying his music. When I go out to a lot of these like live music events and these other R&B acts, a lot of our kids are listening to a lot of stuff. Um, they're getting. That's why we have to get into what they listen to also, because there's some kind of miscommunication going on. Yes, they're hearing, they're listening to Sexy Red too, because they have to. Like they have to listen to Cardi B. That shit's getting like forced on them. It's like they're not choosing that. That's like what's getting forced up on them. But a lot of our youth, they're listening to other people too, and that's another thing I want to say about why our culture is so dope. No matter what they project, no matter what the media puts out, no matter how hard they try to oppress us and limit our options, there's always a element of resistance. There's always a generation that's not really with it. There's always a fair amount, a lot of us when they really try to push that gangster rap. Yes, that was what was talked about a lot, but there was still a lot of black people, the majority of black people who never banged, never represented a set, never fell for it. So, and I'm gonna go back to your point, back to you, Ms. G. I'll just talk about another part that's dope about our culture. With all this being true, when I thought about that Jacques concert, it's a lot of us that just don't fall for the bullshit, you know?
It is. And but see, this is why they said shoot. Cause remember when they was trying to push drugs, none of us was like, I remember we go back to the rap group Bone Thugs and Harmony. They the ones that called this out. They said we wasn't gonna be putting no pills, us taking pills in the music. That didn't even sound right. Right? Guess who they erected a couple of years later? Lil Wayne, right? They found somebody young and hungry. So they understand the power of dipping into the poverty level. That bottom like the people that's really stuck in the poverty bottom and pulling them out. Because Lil Wayne was lyrically super talented, right? But they also used him to push this drug user. We went from the drug dealer to the drug user, and the music from the 90s to the 2000s. And it's not a surprise that it happened like that. Right when our artists, they phased them out, they had to put an influx of um other foreign artists to come in and push the narratives, or people who were like just
Miss
straight out
G.
the gutter.
Who else? Who else, Miss G? Who else puts drug culture? Who else? Who's
Yeah,
everybody?
right.
Who who's
Every
who's everybody's
people,
white goat?
right.
Who's everybody's white goat? The all
You
the
said
all the
white
good
folk.
Negroes. The white goat. All the good Negroes like. What's his name? Eminem.
Oh, oh, you talk about, oh yeah, and him, and you know what?
Drug culture.
And even to the Yeah, but it was beyond drug culture with him. It was abuse culture. It was hate culture. This man made songs talking about raping his mama.
Eminem normalized.
Can you imagine a
Yeah,
black man
Eminem.
making a song like that?
Yeah, Eminem normalized taking the drugs before Lil Wayne was taking drugs. Remember, Lil Wayne was still a hot boy at the time. Eminem was the one taking the drugs. Let's put responsibility where it belongs. It belonged on that white boy. And after that white boy knocked it down the door down to that culture, then Lil Wayne and the rest of them came. It's that white boy. And I don't
Right.
mind the white people putting him up front. That's what white folks do. Whatever. They're always gonna put theirs up front. I can't I have no control of what white folks are gonna white. Whatever. I have an issue with niggas that be like, well, Eminem's still in my top five because he do got lyrical skills and he get his rhyme patterns and man, he know how to ride a beat and he know how to battle rap, even though most of his battles that they've been with Mariah Carey and this white boy went at Nora Jones. Who the fuck goes at Nora Jones as a rapper? Most of his battles have been picking on women and people who aren't his contemporaries. You know what I mean? But niggas like putting him in their top fives because well, you do got skills, right? Yeah, yeah, you do can rap, That Eminem, that motherfucker, him. He normalized a lot of that taking drugs in our culture. And but also at the same time,
But what about the
go
time
ahead.
though? No, but what about see, and we got to look at the timing of this, right? When our people were saying no, they said, "Look, you gonna do this, so we're gonna get somebody else." They had to test the water. They always test the water with one of their white artists. They put their little feet in the water to see if they'll float. Let them swim in a little bit. So they get closer to the deep end. They're gonna see if they can float. That's what they do with all of their artists. And Eminem, the way they were able to, what they didn't do with like the Vanilla Ice, they gave this man a movie. And like I told you with the other stuff, they replayed it over and over and over again because they had to give an illusion that this man was somehow connected to us. Matter of fact, we actually had a space like a year or so ago, 2 years ago, where some people who was there when Eminem came into the scene, they say he just showed out on the outside of the venue where they was doing the music, because so he was like strategically placed, and they had to, in order for them to the area where he's from, over he's not even from Detroit, but over there, whatever area he's from, the artist had to have a white artist on with them, so they pulled him up. It was actually supposed to allegedly be somebody else. So now, fast forward today, if you look at the youth who were stuck, at home watching TV, they had those repeat shows on like they do with the radio. They like, oh well, Eminem, he down with the culture. All they got in their mind is that Condition movie to make them think, oh, Eminem cool. Like, look, he's just a regular cat, and that's what they do. This was a manufactured like
And
demand
let
for
me
him.
you made a dope point about 8 Mile and how another point about him showing up. But who put him on? Niggas
That's
love blaming
yeah. I
Dre.
was about to say. I mean, if you have a black
Right?
cosigner, that
No, 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 Steve. No, 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 no. That's the mistake. You about to make the mistake everybody makes. Dre didn't put him on. Jimmy Iovine put him on. Jimmy Iovine is Dre's boss. If we The music industry works no different than your job. If your boss comes to you and say do this, you have to do it. Jimmy Iovine found Eminem's tape and he marched that tape to Dr. Dre's desk and said, "You're going to produce him." Jimmy Iovine controls the money. So once Dre produces him, Jimmy Iovine can now say, "We're going to put Bilal's project on the shelves. We're going to put Truth Hurts project on the shelves." It's a lot of R&B that Aftermath had at that same time that they shelved. And that's not on Dre. Dre produced those albums. It's not Dre's decision to put them out. Dre produced a whole album for Truth Hurts, never came out. He produced a whole album, a second album for Bilal that never came out. It's a lot of R&B and a lot of other rappers. What's his name? Rakim was with Aftermath at the time. Dre produced the album, never came out. Jimmy Iovine is the person that made Dre produce that album. Jimmy Iovine released Eminem. Jimmy Iovine chose to shelve other black products. We gotta, and I'm glad I stopped, but we always gotta go back. He who controls the money controls what happens in music. That's like really in anything in life. But in music, what gets released is the person that's in charge of the distribution. That's who decide what gets out there, especially back in the days of CDs. And even now in the days of streaming. Because now they can just decide to, hey, you can release the dopest song ever. But if we're gonna cap how many people we allow to see you have an album out, you're not gonna go anywhere. Versus if you open up your Spotify, you open up your Apple Music, if I put this face in front of you, and when that album gets released for the next 2 weeks, you're going to see that face every time. It's a good chance people are going to download. So we always got to go back to the people who control the decisions. Jimmy Iovine, Dr. Dre didn't know who the fuck Eminem was at all. He was like, he didn't know an Eminem from a Reese's Pieces. I promise you. Until Jimmy Iovine gave him his tape and said, produce an album for him. If Dre says I'm not going to produce an album, guess what? He's in breach, and now he owes the record label money. He can now no longer now he cannot release the Chronic 2000. Now he cannot release the rest of those albums. He has to do what his boss tells him to do. So I want to go on into Miss G's point about Eminem being placed. On one hand, he was placed in front of that theater. He wasn't organically from that rapping arena. He was given a movie, and he was given the best producer at the zenith of Dr. Dre's career. He was given who gets access to the best producer in the game off the top. We got to remember the whole story when it comes to that white boy. I cut you off, Miss G. Go ahead and finish your point.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had stuff in here for 1 second. I'll be right back on. All right, hold on. I'll be right back.
All right, Eve, do you want to say something?
It just kind of reminds me of like the new student in class, and then the principal or the teacher pulls you to the side and says, "Hey, you need to take this student around and show him all the ropes and stuff." And you don't know this person from a bag of paint or whatever or a box of rocks, but something's just off about him. And I hear what you're saying about Dre being controlled opposition, high paid employees. I did make mention of that earlier. I don't know. Sometimes when we're in these deals with the devil, I still feel like our people matter, our story matters. If if he wasn't told that Eminem was white, would he have heard it in the sound? Like, so Dre gets tape, and he's like, you know, produce some beats for this guy. He doesn't get any questions, no say so. It just seems like slave deals all around. I know people talk about the 360 deal, but it just seems like all of it.
The music industry is don't it's all it's your job. It's a job. It's just we all get the privilege. They just have a job that we all see and we all hear. It's a job. If you're gonna keep your job, you gotta do what your boss tell you to do. And that's how the music changed. The music changed by people just going to work and being told, okay, the producer, this is who you're gonna produce. And it's not like Dre did it at the behest of other artists. He produced that Busta Rhymes album. He completed it. Remember that was a big knock on Dre in the early 2000s. He sat on everything. But it's not his decision to release. That's the distributors. That's Jimmy Iovine controls the budgets. Because when you release an album, now you have to have a time for this amount of money is going to get allotted for CD purchases. This a lot of because you still had tapes still around the time. Okay, this a lot of money is going to be allotted for tapes. This is a shipment costs. Now we need marketing promotion. Now we need to pay all of the radio stations to play this album. So now when the album gets released, there's still millions of dollars that have to be accounted for. And that's the marketing. That's the different department Dr. Dre just makes the music. He gets an artist, go in that studio, come here, Nate Dogg, put in the hook. Let me come here, Daz. Come here, my younger beat maker. Give me a beat. Let me polish this beat off and turn it from a beat into a song. Get in that booth, and then he's off to the next project. Like the album that I heard he did with Bilal, Dre did amazing work with Bilal. Like Dre put his heart and soul in that album with Bilal. If we can get, I'm sure, I'm 99% sure, and I'm not defending Dr. Dre because I don't know him from a can of paint, but I just know music. I'm sure with the level of production Dre put into that second Bilal album, if you get him behind closed doors and he made you sign an NDA to where you couldn't repeat what he said, if you ask him, was it his decision to sit on that Bilal album? I'm 99% sure he'd say no. I'm because he put his soul into that album. You know what I mean? That wasn't his decision. That came from higher up. Well, at the same time, but look at we all also got to go back into the overall shape of the musical environment. Let's go back to 2003, 2002. I did a show on this 2 years ago on my YouTube show. Overall, across the industry, bigger than Aftermath Records, the industry is defunding rhythm and blues and putting those budgets behind rap and hip hop. That's why when Toni Braxton, her last album, The Heat, was fire. It was a great album. But when she released her next album, they didn't promote it. Why? They said because they told her not to get pregnant. And if she chose to get pregnant, they weren't going to promote her album. She got pregnant, decided to have a family. They didn't promote her album. You had artists like Shantae Moore. Her best album dropped in 2000, 2001 and they didn't re-sign her after that. SWV, all those great singers of the 90s, they started getting released from their contracts. And then out of nowhere, now we're getting this drug culture rap. Drug culture rap, all those artists that got signed to the hoes and clothes, the Rick Rosses of the world, the people who are about hoes and clothes and drugs, they got budgets behind them at the sacrifice of rhythm and blues. Like labels didn't take from white artists. White artists, you can be white folk, white country, white rock. Everybody gets a budget. On the black side, it was rhythm and blues or rap and hip hop. There was a short amount of time in the 90s where they merged. In the 80s, the whole budget was rhythm and blues. They weren't willing to give rap budgets. So rap had to create its own labels, Def Jam and so on and so forth. So then when the albums like record labels like The Face came around where they were sharing budgets, Outkast and TLC was sharing a budget. By the time the 2000s came, when the distributors started to put a stranglehold on those black labels, when the white folks started back taking over our labels, they took money out of rhythm and blues and gave it to hip hop. That was across the board. So what went on with the advancement of Eminem when right in concert with the advancement of rap. All of it came because rhythm and blues and music with personality and love and harmony and togetherness was sacrificed intentionally. That's why I like having these spaces because we got to expand the conversation. We got to expand the conversation. Like this isn't something that we chose. White people, we created record labels that was giving all the good music out. That's what we did. They decided to play big bank, take little bank, because that's just how America works. White people do it to each other. They don't just do it to us, they do it to each other. Big bank, little bank is the game of America. They come in, big bank, little bank us, take our shit, and if we don't sell, they just choke the distribution. So now your artists can't get distributed. It don't matter how good the music is. No one's ever going to know they came out with this album because we're not going to distribute it. Force you to sell. And then when you sell, the people who do the music the right way, their budgets get cut. The no matter how great of a job the producer did, going back to Dre, no matter how great they did with the album, we're just not going to release it. And we're going to release this album over here. Matter of fact, they'll go so far as to say, because to record an album, say the album has 12 to 15 songs. You probably recorded 40 to 60 songs to get those 12 to 15, especially if you work with Dr. Dre. If you work with Dr. Dre, you probably recorded 100 songs to get 10. That's how he works. So they'll go so far as to take a song that you didn't want on the album. It was a throwaway song, a song that you didn't even refine all the way. They'll go so far as to put that on the album and take off a song that you had with a message with some musicality to it, something that would help the people grow. They'll take that shit off. And because you're under contract and they have the last right of what gets released, you can't do a damn thing about it. And you gotta wake up tomorrow at 3 in the morning to do promo on the East Coast for Hot 97 at 6 a.m. And you better do it with a smile. That's how that shit works. That game is cold. Um, but we got Yusef.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm 35 years old, and pretty much what you all are talking about was about 23 years ago when around 2000. What I believe the first really drug use song that was very popular was "Because I Got High." That was when you had Napster and LimeWire, and people had access to make it viral, and that was the first, I think, viral song. And then, that's also a year before or a year after Eminem. Like at my house when I was raised, we couldn't listen to, rap music and things like that. But I remember the first song I remembered, like word for word, was "Because I Got High." And then you had, and then what you mentioned as far as like Lil Wayne coming out. But even before that, as far as you have sipping on scissor. And I just remember distinctively, all the kids were downloading, using LimeWire at that time. So I was about 12 years old, so I was in sixth grade, and that is when that "Because I Got High" song came out, and the amount of not only black kids, white kids, and the amount of downloads, it pretty much broke the internet. So I believe when the executives and folks like that, that's when they saw the gold rush, and that's how you position Eminem a year later to in a lot of his lyrics were detrimental, and really believe that is where this whole yeah.
Real quick. I hear where you come from because I'm a little bit older than you. I'm gonna make it real clear. Getting high has always been a part of music. Like Death Row. I mean, Ray Charles had a song called "Let's Get Stoned." So I want to make something very clear. Getting high has always been a part of
Sure,
music.
sure, but
What we talking about as far as like the thing that Eminem changed was making the pill popping, the current pill popping culture that we see right now. That part that got ushered in with Eminem.
yeah,
The more hard
Yeah,
drugs
I
before.
definitely agree with. I'm saying the appetite
Mhm.
for it. I believe I agree with what you're saying as far as before that. People were talking about selling drugs and things like that, even doing drugs. But the
Mm.
influence of that "Because I Got High" song and the LimeWire, like they started pumping a lot more money into hip hop rap culture, and edifying those when you're talking about Lil Wayne, Eminem's, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, man. Thanks for that. But, I
You know
want
what?
to. I want to make a point real clear, but I'm gonna get to you, Miss G. I'm gonna get right back. I'm gonna get right to you, Miss G. I'll make a point. 'Cause I mean, this is the point I lost my thought on earlier when I lost my thought. Um, I did want to make it very clear that drug use has always been a part of music. Drug use always will be a part of music. But there's always a way there was always a poetry about it. The way when we did it, going back to why our culture is so dope. When we would talk, because getting high is a part of life. People, there will be a segment in society that's going to get high, guaranteed. But when it gets to the point of getting high, defining your life and your livelihood and your lifestyle and being defined by, that's the line that's gone uh really extreme in the last 15 to 20 years. Songs like "Let's Get Stoned" by Ray Charles. It's talking about being out at a party one night and doing something. And it was also one of those things where this is what I do. It wasn't something that in the context of, it being a lifestyle. And that's something that we gotta always know that there's always gonna be a fine line. We're never gonna get rid of drug use in music. It's always gonna be there. But we do have to be cautious as to how and the point of view of the perception that drug use is being talked about. But go ahead, Miss G.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in just because he did mention something that was powerful. Because now you're recognizing like the symptoms of like the reactions. Remember, they have to push it into reality. So the because I got high effect started because of the movies. They always had to feed you the visual. They had How High running on all of the stations. Remember? There was
The
movies
Wash,
running.
How High. There was a lot of movies after right after Friday, because Friday
Yep.
kind of kicked off. Right after Friday, it was like a whole
Right.
other thing.
Right. But How High was significant because see, our people always smoke weed. That's a natural thing. Our people can bootleg liquor. They're gonna drink and they're gonna smoke weed, right? But our people, when they get to the hard stuff, it never was a thing. The movie How High was so significant because it was like at first I looked at it like, wow, he's so intelligent. When what's his name? Method Man was on there doing his like doing the chemical balances and just genetically I guess genetically modifying like GMO type of weed. This is when the GMO type of weed was ushered in. And I feel like that movie specifically, and I love Method Man, don't get it twisted, that's why I watched that movie like crazy. But when you go back and you look at it, it kind of conditioned our people to be neutralized when it came to manufactured marijuana. It ushered in the new era that we're experiencing now, and we're finding out so much that they put into the damn new weed. The Nation of Islam actually did a whole study on it. And that was like I listened to some of the lectures from I think it was Wesley Muhammad. He was putting it out there, and it's some crazy stuff that they did, but they had to usher us into it. They had to use our favorite people at that time to kind of usher it in. And our people like, well, it's just weed. It's not weed. It's not just weed anymore unless it's from your hookup dude that still grow it the same way he had back in the 90s or the 80s. you know
I
Now-
agree. This what I tell all the weed smokers. I'm smoking a blunt right now. Get it. Don't go to the goddamn dispensaries. Yeah. I went to the dispensary. I was in Palm Springs last month. I went because I took an ounce of me out there. I was only out there for like 5 days. I took an ounce, but I was done by the third day. And so I went out. I went down to the dispensary, and I got that dispensary weed, man. Fuck and no. I was like, man, let me just go ahead and be sober this last day I'm here. Let me go get a drink. I don't know what the fuck that was. That shit. I don't know what the fuck that was because I haven't
but
gone to a dispensary in so many years. I don't know what the fuck that was.
but but our kids will never understand what real weed is. They'll never understand Mary Jane. They'll never understand the effects of Mary Jane and the mushroom effect. So when you look at when we start looking at it, and we really have to look at the visuals, because the visuals really tap into your subconscious, because you can't, like, once you see something you can't really unsee it. It kind of goes into the back, it kind of neutralizes, but you got it in your mind somewhere. And then when you're introduced to something similar to that again, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's kind of what it is. And you go back to the Method Man effect, when in reality it's a whole mad freaking scientist behind this shit, doing things to not only sterilize you, but even change the sex that you're attracted to. Like, this crazy, the levels, the chemicals that they're playing with, and they're placing all of these dispensaries around our neighborhoods, all of them. everybody want a weed card. And it sounded good because everybody's like hemp. See, they're not telling our people to get involved on the level of the boss. If we looking at the drug game, they're not telling you to be the kingpin, the landowner that grows the damn weed. They're telling you to be the drug dealer once again in an industry that we wrote the damn blueprint to. So that's where this is pretty much where we are in. And even though of course we know the effects of um the drug industry, but this is something to usher our people or condition our people to go into a different direction. This is how they can neutralize us mentally and fuck up your kids' minds in other ways when they're in the indoctrination centers. All of this shit plays together. This is why they got the rappers rapping about it. But guess what? Your music is not even protected because I guess the mayor or somebody, I think it was in Atlanta, said, yeah, rap music is not a protected, you don't have freedom of speech in rap music. You even a slave in your own damn creation.
And that's why I'm glad you brought that point up. And that's why, like, I created for those of you who don't know how my documentary was release party was yesterday. I'm going to release it here on YouTube next week and free for everybody. The version that was on yesterday's broadcast, well, pay per view, that's exclusive to the people who were there. So, and the people who were there, I'm about to send you the other copy, the advanced copy, soon. But when we talk about expanding the conversation, because look what they do in the hip hop, they're criminalizing it. But I'm the kind of person, going back to why Black American culture is so dope. I see the silver lining around it because every time they criminalize our art, it's the first time they criminalize an art form of ours. They criminalize jazz. The jazz in certain places around the country, playing jazz, it gets you put in jail in the 1920s and 30s,
Jackass music. Yep.
Yeah, it was, they've always found a way. They wanted to criminalize rock and roll, but there were just too many white people who liked it for them to do it. Because Chuck Berry and Fast Fast Domino was known for starting riots. Like I read something in a book I read about him called Blue Monday. They said they were really considering like stopping Fats Domino from touring because every time he showed up, the white people would riot. His music was so that show you how much of a devil a lot of these motherfuckers is. They can't have a good time without fucking something up. But every time he came to town, they'd riot. But they're like if they banned, he put them in the catch 22. They were going to riot if he got there. But if they didn't have a Fats Domino concert, then when white folks was going to riot on the city council and the mayor's office. Oh, that's always been an effect of. That's always been part of our culture and how dope we are. So, what am I bringing that up? Every time we've been faced with an opposition, something telling us we can't go there, what do? We evolve and create something else. Hip hop is done anyway. It's been done. It's dead. It is it's like in the way we know it. It's on something different now. I think it's been something different. But one thing about us as Black people, we too lazy to label our own genres. We always wait for white people to label them before we do it. A lot of stuff that shit. And what is Anderson .Paak doing? Is that hip hop? Is it R&B? Well, it's kind of he's rapping and he's singing and he's playing the drums. Something different. We on something different. Um, you see, what Gary Clark is out there doing on guitar. I got my man J Mo, Jarris Mosey. He has a genre that I labeled for him called hippie soul. He's hippie. We got hippie soul out there. I mean, we really do got other shit that we kind of doing right now. And this younger generation, you keep putting the block on rap and hip hop. We just got something else that we creating, and that's all that's gonna happen. So let them outlaw rap. It's just done anyway. Like we ain't immigrants. Like somebody said earlier. Rap, and we talked about this yesterday on the Twitter space on my YouTube channel. Rap is in some ways it's a genius form of music, But in a lot of ways, it's the lowest form of music we've ever created. It's the lowest vibration. It's the least innovative because it's relying upon samples. We've never relied on samples from the past. Part of our culture, going back to why our culture is so dope, musically, we feeling up until 1979, up to about 1983, to take somebody else's music and redo it, even when the Rappers Delight came out with number one, it was a novelty song because they sampled. It was like, what is this? They're redoing a beat. What is this? What is this? We were never that lazy. Like in any music, I'm talking about in any form of music. We was always pushing. We weren't gonna take your beat, and then, and even in the tour bar blues, where the structure's the same, everybody's gonna play the same general structure. Every individual musician, if you couldn't put your own stank on it, you weren't worthy enough to be a blues musician. So the casual listener right here, the traditional don't don't you may used to hearing that, but on guitar, you better not play your guitar like Muddy. You better sound like your motherfucking self. You better not. We've always had a certain evolution that when it got to hip hop, we got lazy and we accepted like, oh yeah, Diddy let's just take that beat, loop it 2 bars, and put a new song on top. We were never that lazy musically. Now, you know, when it came to singing, we auto tune. What's that? Huh? Now I can see using it as a kind of a change of pace, yeah. But now you got whole careers where people that's all they do. You don't have to hit that D flat no more. What is this? Huh? That's never been a concept of ours. That in this last 20 years has gotten normalized. Just this extremely lazy form of making music. That's why the rest of the world get to have their own version of it. If you notice, the rest of the world ain't got their own version of soul music. If I'm lying, let me know. Tell me if I'm bullshitting or not. Is there another version of soul music anywhere in the world? Is there no, it doesn't exist because that form of music is too high for anybody to reach. Maybe they're pushing us back to going to being great again. Make Black America great again. Let's go. Let me get a red hat. Go ahead, Miss G. I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's deeper than that though. I think this is we're at the point of erasure. So they have to neutralize. They have to neutralize us so that we don't evolve. Because if we evolve, we're going to develop a new music genre. Hence the reason why I was talking about, the R. Kelly effect. But that's another story for another day. But they had to neutralize us because we will evolve and create something new real quick. And they can't have that because it'll be something that'll uplift more of us. And the goal is to wipe us out. This is how we get back
I
to,
I agree 100% that that's the goal.
you
But
know,
remember, that's been the goal for 300 years now.
right. But this is the end goal because, and what I mean by that is they're erasing our faces out of it. They ushered in, like, even when you look at the rap industry, it doesn't sound the same because it's not the same people. It don't sound the same because it's not the same people. You look at the artists, you don't really see us anymore. And then if you do see us, it's the lowest version of us. You're looking at the television, the actresses and the actors, they're replacing us with European black um, artists. You know, they're counting on in the next 10 years us being unrecognizable. This was the whole effect of the whole flattened blackness. This is so deep that if we this is why this is a very important renaissance time, because if we don't recreate something new that specifically identifies us, and if we don't claim everything, everybody is looking. You can look at how they're dividing up at all of our creations right now, just like they did during the Berlin conference. They're dividing up everything that we've created, and people are claiming it as their own, and they're walking around as if we already don't exist. So that's why I said, even with how you're moving with this music, um, this is bigger than hip hop thing. It is bigger than hip hop. This is literally the fight of our lives. And even though they've been trying to get rid of us since for 300 years, they already see us as gone. These people, these others, these people that look just like us, the tether effect, they don't care. It's no level of respect because they already know the end goal. We just didn't get the memo. We're awakening to it because it's so clear. With certain, we everybody knows something's going on because people waking up all over the place without even being a part of conversations like this. Everybody just feel like it's something wrong, and that's what happens when um even like animals, when they're in survival mode, they have that loud cry out. That's what they said the sound of hip hop was at the highest point. A scientist did the study on the sound effects. They said it was equivalent to a dying animal. And that is where we are right now, our people as a collective. And that's why we're all right now fighting like hell. This is why you said, you know what, something pushed you to this. You were compelled to grab the mic, sit in front of that camera, and record that documentary.
Yep.
Thus, Eve was compelled to start Sunday school. You got Tariq compelled to do whatever Tariq does. The guy Tariq Adams that's down here. I'm sorry, I'm just pointing at people in the audience. But everybody, we're all, well, we know what Tariq Nasheed is doing. He's compelled to do that. He's like, we gotta do this. It's like, and even me, like, I'm trying to jump like every area where I know I can function. I can't even sleep right if I don't jump on this. A lot of these things that
I wanted to say what you
going
were saying.
through.
I want to go on what you were just saying about what they're doing.
Yeah,
That's what they're doing. But they you can't they can't kill us off. I mean, they can't erase us. What happens is this. We every few years get, because we got so much humanity, we get lazy. And from the late 90s through 5 years ago, through 6 years ago, we had just gotten lazy. And that's all that's been happening. And we get lazy like this through different times in our history here. When we decide to wake up and speak for ourselves as we are right now, it always comes through, and we always stop whatever they're doing just through us standing up for ourselves. And through that, going into why I created this topic, why Black American culture is so dope. Through that, out of those extreme circumstances, is generally when we put in our best work. Black music had gotten, in effect, very lazy in the 1950s. Let's get a little bit of history here. 1950s, you had the new civil rights movement really started in the mid 20s as a grassroots movement through the underneath it all in the 20s and 30s and 40s. It wasn't a popular thing. It was grassroots. And the music in the 30s, there was militancy to it. Strange Fruit dropped in 1937. There was a message still in the music. By the time we get to the 50s and the World War II generation, as we're going up to the cities, we thinking it's all good in a lot of ways. The music of the 50s had gotten very huff and puff, very fluffy. That's why the 50s isn't one of the we don't look back at the 50s as one of the great eras of music. It is a great era in music, but that was a down era. That was a down decade. 20s was popping, the 30s was popping, the 40s was popping. The 50s has kind of gotten down. The music had gotten flat and very, uh tutti fruity-ish. You dig what I'm saying? Too much celebration. And things we were acting like we were further along than we were because now we're in cities, now we have jobs. And then the 60s came and dropped and reminded us what the fuck is going on. And in the late 50s into the 60s is that's when bebop comes along. The same way hip hop came along. Bebop came along to remind us where the fuck we were and what time it was. Max Roach dropped an album in 1960 called It's Time. And the music was very violent and is very So it was a one-to-one connection between the environment of Black America, the sound of Black America. When bebop came around, and as when hip hop came around, bebop came around and said, "Wake the fuck up! We needed a sound that would jar us awake because a lot of that 50s music was too celebratory, you know." And so and it was that's when Ray Charles was dropping "Let's Get Stoned," you know, and it was too like that. And then the '60s came, and then Motown came. Motown tried to play it down the middle for a little bit. They coded the music like songs like "Dancing in the Street" was a coded message. But then you also had Stax, and you also had James Brown, and you also had these other acts that are coming in like, hey, some shit going on here. And then by the time we get to the late '60s, you got a whole new boom in music. You got funk, you got the protest music of Aretha Franklin, Curtis Mayfield. You got to realize the environment Aretha Franklin, Curtis Mayfield, and James Brown was born out of, they came up in an environment that was thinking it was all good because Black Americans were now living in cities. We were no longer in the rural South. We're in the North now. We're in Chicago, Detroit, New York, Ohio, and we think it's good. The same way Black folks in the 90s and the 2000s, we got our little neighborhoods over here designated to us. Yes, a few shootings going on every now and again, but we think it's good. And then they tighten them screws on our asses, and then we realize it ain't good, and we fight back. We fight back in a big way. We win a lot, and we have a boom in creativity. We have a boom in our economy. No matter what's going on in the American economy, we have and it's happened. It happened like that in the 19 teens. It happened like that in the 1870s. It happened like that in the 1890s. And we're at that point again, but now it's our turn. Our grandparents, our parents' generation kind of reaped the benefits of the generation that had to fight this fight, but that fight fell on us. Now we at the point what we gonna do, and historically, based on what we've done in the past, I trust our next movement. I look at some of this shit when they tighten their screws on us. Fine, let's go for it. They tried to erase us in the past with all these other immigrants. There was a category called olive, like the Greeks and all the motherfuckers. They was olive. When the populist party was around in the 1890s, the Greeks, the Italians, all these other subgroups, they were non-white. A lot of Black folks in the 1890s really thought we had a unity. We thought we had a thing going on. It wasn't as it is right now. They didn't look distinctly Black as the ones of nowadays do. But the classification, the way United States classifications and categories ran, it was the same circumstances in the 1890s when we had the populist party, and we thought that we could unite with them because these were non-whites that were fighting against oppression. We thought we had team members, and we won a lot of elections in 1892 and 1896, and that's what led to the Wilmington riots of 1898, when all the Black people and all the Black politicians got killed and run out of town because we thought we had friends with these non-white people. Same shit, different toilets. So we got to understand that we've we're doing what we're doing right now, going into back to the title, why our culture is so dope. What we're doing right now is we're actively um preempting what they're doing. We see that they're trying to erase us. So we're making movies to talk about our greatness. We see that they're trying to take us out. We see that they're trying to give us sexy reds. So I made sure I created a live music night where I promote musicians and artists here in LA that actually sing and actually play instruments because I see they're trying to give us Sukihana. So okay, yeah, we're just gonna create something to the opposite. And through us doing that, Miss G, I promise you, man, I promise you, Miss G and E, we new dope shit. Hip hop is done. It's lasted too long anyway. Fine, let it go. Like it's ours now. I ain't gonna let it go and let others claim it. Hell no, it's just still ours, and you bastards can't claim it. Wow, at the same time, we go ahead and create something new. We're gonna create something new and hold on to hip hop and funk and disco and rock and roll. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. And I wanted to go with what you was talking about in the 50s. We cannot forget the effect. A lot of things died down because they were shipping our men off to war. Remember in 1945, our people was getting shipped off into war overseas. and our men was getting executed. The women were forced to go to work, um, and the youth were kind of left out also. So even some of the kids were getting forced to work. So during that time when the music had died, it flattened. It's because they were throwing our men into this military. They were getting drafted, even not even at draft ages, like they've always done. And it's the same thing, kind of like what they're lining up things to do right now. You know, you see, and they kind of recycle the same behaviors. And when they know we're about to do, have like that burst of creation. They know, they understand our ways. They studied us for a very long time, and they understand the power if we do something. Um, that's why I was like, even with hip hop is already evolving, especially when you listen to the hip hop jazz. That's more popular than anything. I think we were talking about that a little while ago. How you go into and the guys just start rapping to the beat with the band in the background. That's something huge. That's like really just expanding countrywide. People are getting back into spoken word. It started to rise in the '90s again, but it's getting even louder now again, with spoken word. But I think in the '50s, the reason for that, kind of like the die down portion, I think is because of the attacks, and not to mention those who weren't shipped off. They was fighting for their lives in the black towns that were still in existence at that time. That they were taunting and getting our people were getting lynched like crazy. Our people were fighting a war here, and it was the black artists that were funding the people to go. That was around the time when going into the '60s, where we was fighting for the right to vote and equal rights. So all of these things were happening during that time. So it wasn't. I think the musicians just found their place, because I watched a couple of documentaries where the artist was talking about how they paid for a lot of these things for the civil rights movement. They would pay for the food, the for when
A
people were
part of the
holding
reason
court.
why,
Yep,
and this is something I learned from Dr. Randy
yep,
Shaw, uh, a lot of the gangsters at the time was forcing them to. The gangsters kind of controlled the what you know the pool hall guys. Dr. Clark talked about that. A lot of the pool hall guys was money behind. They was putting their money behind the movement, and then they was coming to these artists. Then a lot of the people were coming to the artists like, hey, a lot of the artists didn't want to do it because we have a few things going on at the time. And I thank you for bringing up that point about the war. Yeah, because after World War II, you had Korea, or as my great uncle, Uncle Son, used to always say, Korea. All old niggas used to be like, I fought in Korea. They didn't say Korea. They Kooorea is how old black men say Korea. Anyway, like they had the Korean War going on, and you had that, but you also had the city black folks thinking that they better than the country black folks. That was a big thing too. You had the city, yeah, and then here you go. Oh, go back and watch in the movie Life. What you farm boys doing down here? Remember when he walked in, he's like, "Cock a doodle doo, nigga." That was just we so the city while the South had that going on, a lot of the city folks are just trying to make it by, and they're learning. They're that first generation in the city, and they're actively learning this isn't what they thought it was going to be, because a lot of people left the South thinking that the North and the West was going to be all good, uh, you know. And so this is the first generation that's finding out it ain't all good, and their kids are seeing it. So their children, Marvin Gaye is the children of the generation that's saying the city ain't all that good. James Brown is the son. Aretha Franklin, she's the daughter. These are the children of the generation. They growing up and seeing their mom and dad work all goddamn day at work in these factories. And their parents are telling them, well, this city life is better than what your cousins had going on down there in Arkansas. So you have a lot of that stuff going on. And on top of that, in the '50s, you got a lot of these cats that did escape the South. So the tone of their music, when they go up north to Chicago to record on the Chess Records, even though they're going through a bunch of bullshit in Chicago, it's still a hell of a lot better than their experience in childhood in Mississippi. You know, and so the music is going to reflect that. So now the music is taking more of a tone of now a lot of your biggest issues is your women problems now. you know, your biggest issues is dealing with these women or you can't hold your liquor, so you're getting in bar fights. Those are now your biggest problems versus when you were down in Mississippi and Alabama, 10, 20 years ago. So that tone started to come into the music. But then again, like I said, the children of that generation, they got to see their mom and daddy and hear mama and daddy stories and how the city life was supposed to be better than the country life that mama and daddy grew up in. So that goes up into why Marvin Gaye has a question of called What's Going On? Why Stevie Wonder had to sue Motown to speak up for his people. Because and that goes in the show, going back to our title, why our culture is so dope. Everything Miss G said, all that's going on at the same time what I said was going on, and other parts of what's going on that's not mentioned because there's other stories that we haven't mentioned that happened at the time. All of
Eugenics. Yep.
our music. Go ahead.
Yeah, because another huge part during that 50s drag portion, we cannot exclude the eugenics. They was having our people live in these heavily toxic communities. They was poisoning the water with lead levels that was just insane. The amount of deformities and retardation that was happening to a lot of our people. Not to mention the eugenics when we go to the syphilis and all of that type of stuff. They were putting the lead in the homes. That lead didn't just start in the 90s. They had the lead in these homes for a very long time. They were doing so many things. The projects, the taunting of people in the projects, the they were doing so many things to our people. I think 50s was like a dark age for our people. And it was a fight. Like
You
they
know what
wanted
else
to
is
get rid
going
of.
on?
Yep.
What else is going on? I don't know about y'all, but here in LA, like LA's an oil town. Major, don't get it twisted. One of the biggest industries in LA is oil. The refineries here. All of the oil in Mexico on the west coast of Mexico gets refined in LA out of Long Beach and over here in El Segundo, about 4 or 5 miles from where I live. But there are a lot of oil fields back then that Shell Oil Company had that they covered up. And those oil fields that they covered up ended up becoming parks in black neighborhoods. If you're in LA, Ted Watkins Park on 103rd and Central, that used to be an oil field. Magic Johnson Park on El Segundo and Central, right by Drew Magnet School. That used to be an oil field. I talked to somebody, a scientist, who's a part of that. And you'll see a park here in LA where it's pretty trees. That park has a little lake in it. And you like, oh man, these people in LA got it good. Yeah, nigga, and it's all kind of toxic crude oil up under that motherfucker. The city of Carson here in LA. The city of Carson is people come here and say city of Carson is the only place that the black side of town is doing better than all of the other sides of town. The black people in Carson, the black side of town is doing better than the Asian side of town, is doing way better than the Mexican side of town. Carson, California, the black people are all over there, all for the most part, doing really well for themselves, and every other ethnic group in Carson takes a secondary seat to black people economically over there. Catch. Carson's a former oil dump. So the levels of cancer and oil under the ground in Carson, California, in an article I read in the LA Times about 15 years ago, is 10,000 times higher than what's deemed safe. And so the one quote unquote prosperous black neighborhood, not one, I won't say one, View Park, Ladera Heights, the niggas got bread over there. But Carson, that's on top of a fucking oil field. And that story, if you look up brownfields, go to your city. I don't know what your city may have a different name for them, but in LA and California, they're called brown fields or brown zones. And a brown field slash brown zone, those are parts of the city that used to have toxic oil under them. And we go to those parts of the city, one to one, I can guarantee goddamn to you most of the time they're on the black side of town. So that goes into more of what you said, Miss G.
Yeah, we had those also. I just looked it up. Brownfields. Yep.
And
That's what I just saw it. I'm gonna
you,
have to read up on that.
you know
Uh,
your neighborhood. I don't know what the black neighborhoods are or not, but so you know your neighbor, your city better than I do. It's almost guaranteed. This is most 70% of them are on the black side of town.
Wow. And but see, but this is when our people was still putting it in the music. You was highlighting certain things James Brown was doing, certain things Stevie Wonder was doing. And Marvin Gaye. Like they was still fighting back musically in their given areas, still giving a better image of Black America. See, that's what was powerful. The image that the world saw of us didn't match the message that they were trying to say. That's why it was so important once we got into the 70s for them to dumb our people down. That's what was the good times effect. You get this is the time when you go into like good times and you got the suck of this, suck of that movies. And that kind of those type of things did two things. They gave us this feeling like you get to release. It's like, yeah, we got a black man cussing out a white man. Like that was that it was to diffuse some of the energy because they didn't want us to uprise like they did after Martin Luther King with the riots then, and then after that, shortly after the Black Panthers movement. But it was at that point they understood the power of our cohesiveness, and it started breaking us down. And you can even hear the transition even in some of the music. Papa was a Rolling Stone and all of those things. And granddaddy's always like my grandfather had a whole family across the tracks that I actually met some of here in Baltimore years ago. Um, after the fact. That's crazy, right? You find actual relatives. I walked into a store, she's like, oh, we might be related. And we really were. It's crazy. But yeah, this is that effect, and they put it into the music. So our music has always been our reflection. This is why I say right now is so this is how I know we're at the end game. And even when we get more into like further discussions, genocide wise, you'll see why it's important for these sexy rigs to be highlighted right now. This is the light that's reflecting out of America. This is the light and the sound that's reflecting out of America in our image and the gangster rappers. The goal is to say, you know what? Get rid of them niggas. We don't need them anyway. You notice
Real,
how they, yeah.
real. Just like they killed off R&B, they're killing off rap. The goal is to make the music so unlistenable, so not respectable, you don't give a fuck what happens to them. And that's okay because everybody ain't gonna make it. You know what I mean? Anybody still following that trend? Hey, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? We tried to warn you. That's how I look at it. Um, because we're moving into something new and something dope. And I want to go off what you said because I don't want to be here all night. I have to leave in about 20 minutes. Go kick it with my parents, and but you remind me of something my dad said. My dad's been telling me this my whole life. Going back, he always said when Superfly, Shaft, and the Mac dropped, they all dropped within like a year of each other. For the most part, the black men at that time went one of those three routes: the Superfly route, the player, the hustler, the drug dealer. That's the route my dad went. The Mac route, the player, the hustler, the womanizer, or the Shaft route. And Shaft was more the people who went and they weren't necessarily cops. They went and got government jobs. That was the government job. Those are the three ways black people for the most part went: government jobs, players, or hustlers. And that's what we said because it's a saying my dad says. Um, he always said when Nixon got in office, we was we was feeling fun and fancy free. We was feeling tickled, and the whole time when after Nixon got in office, all he did was tickle our balls. My dad always say, he said we was feeling tickled because the movies was good, the music is good. We can get back at white folks on TV. We can get a little bit of liberation from Curtis Mayfield on the radio. We could love on our woman to an Ozzy Brothers song. So we really thought it was good, and we really was feeling tickled, not understanding the whole time President Nixon was tickling our balls. My dad, he's always said that Nixon tickled our balls, and no, that doesn't come with a pause to you young homo ass nigga. Real men should be able to speak and not know the other nigga gay for what he said. You niggas is fun. That's nothing. We gotta stop niggas that go around saying pause all the goddamn time. If you got a gay thought in your head when a nigga say something, then man, go work that out. Go kiss a man and find out for real and tell the truth about yourself. Oh nigga, don't be telling me to pause, you sissy ass niggas. Well, and I use that word, yep. So anyway, um, that's what it was. We really fell for it, and they just didn't know. At the time, and it's hard to know at the time, just like a lot of us didn't know in the 90s. Well, I think I was just born with a radar. But I knew that most people, I was always called old man when I was a kid, though, because going back to what I was saying earlier, when I saw Foxy Brown and Lil Kim come out, I didn't accept them then. I liked Tupac on with Digital Underground, but when Tupac went over to Death Row Records, I didn't accept that. I didn't accept that shit at 15. I'm like, no, I'm not. This nigga was just rapping about all around the world, same song. Now all of a sudden is thug this and thug that. No, I'm not accepting that. But I, being honest, I was in the minority. I was more into D'Angelo and Maxwell, and 9 out of 10 of my friends was more into Biggie and Tupac or whatever. We accepted this shit. We got to take responsibility for it. But just like we accepted it, we can recognize it for what it is, and we can change it and go back the other direction. Because our culture is dope and has it has many aspects to it. And just because you accept it don't mean you bad. There's nothing wrong. Just know that there's more to it. Where we went wrong was when we started to only accept hip hop. Like with these conversations that we talk about music, everything got tailored around hip hop. We weren't like that before, man. Even in the 90s, niggas would listen to Dead Prez and then listen to Outkast and then listen to Jody Watley, nigga. Niggas would listen. We listened to Anita Baker. You know what I mean? We've always had that kind of palate, and I think we got to get back to that. But I know Eve, you've been quiet. You want to say something to close it out before we get up out of here?
Honestly, Miss Giselle she silenced me when she started talking about the Berlin Conference and then making the connection to it being bigger than hip hop and how they've just trying to been slice and dice our whole story and then just completely write us out of existence. That shit had I've been stewing on that for like the past 30 minutes. So I I don't have much else to offer. This has been an intelligent conversation, I think, especially when we're diving into the reasons why people love us so much. And I think we do need to be more confident. And I'm a land it there. Black first.
For sure, Miss G.
You know how I feel. I'm like, we're going to keep this ball riding and we're going to swing with everything we got. I appreciate this space so much, and for everyone who came in and participated in the conversation. We really appreciate you, and can't wait to the next one. Oh, and yeah, our sister, our sister FBA Empress does have a movie night. If you guys want to listen to in on the movie night, that's jumping off right now, so you can hop in there after here.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and follow my YouTube channel. I will be uh dropping the documentary on the YouTube channel later on. So follow that. And yeah, we still got the GoFundMe up because we're making it an ongoing series, and I started recording last Wednesday, the next installment of it. So that'll be dropping sometimes in the next few months because I gotta go. I'm just going, I gotta go by the budget, get it edited, make it flushed out right. But the next one's we've already started working on. So I appreciate you guys that have donated to the GoFundMe and that purchased the pay per view because yeah, we've already started moving. As the money came in, we just started going, and we're gonna keep pumping these hoes out. All right. Because we got to tell our story. We got to tell our history. And we got to be the ones that do it. We can't wait on Ken Burns to do it, George Burns, and nobody, goddammit. We got to do it ourselves. And so, with that being said, remember, like I always say, there are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages for those willing to pick up the game. Follow me on YouTube and all that other shit. I'm out.